Some radio host in Texas, I guess, doesn't like the Bud Light boycott and made some video about Kid Rock, who, by the way, owns one of the largest steakhouses and bars in Nashville. So the Looney Leftists made a video trying to be funny. He's not, because as I remind him, Anheuser-Busch is down $6 billion. Well, that, and I remind him that the Looney left fought to have a real black woman taken off a syrup bottle just to put a fake white woman on a beer can. I also shared the biological definition of humans, men and women, because the mentally ill need to be reminded that they're mentally ill and they should get treatment. Here's the video. Not very funny.
Bud Light presents Real Men of Genius.
Real Men of Genius.
Today we salute you, Mr. Washed Up Rock and Roll Star.
Mr. Washed Up Rock and Roll Star.
You were on the can when you found out who we put on our can.
Doing a number 2.
Now you're ready to be the next Ted Nugent.
Got a stranglehold on cholesterol.
Thank you for buying so much Bud Light, even if it's just to shoot it.
Pew pew, rainbow beer cans.
Congratulations on being the only guy Pamela Anderson regretted sleeping with.
Oh, you're no Tommy Lee.
So crack open an ice-cold Bud Light, buddy, while you wait to headline Phase 2 at Del Boca Vista.
Mr. Washed Up Rock and Roll Star.
Then, after the video, I simply reminded him that 1, they took a real black woman off a syrup bottle, only to put a fake white woman on a beer can, and 2, that Anheuser-Busch is down $6 billion, which he contested. I simply stated, and $6 billion later, you don't look stupid at all. He responded with 6 billion, 4 billion, 9 billion. You guys come up with a number and stick with it, which to me sounds like he wants evidence, which, as you people know, I like to find. Remember, it's not what you know, it's what you can find out. So, I found the evidence, and a radio host who doesn't research before flapping their cock holster deserves to be called Sling Blade. Here you go, Sling Blade. Anheuser-Busch loses over $6 billion in market value after partnership with transgender activists. Now, I'm not the smartest guy in the world, but a good tip. If someone proves you don't know shit about something with actual evidence, it's probably not the smartest idea to call them stupid or the missing link. They just made you look stupid, so how much further down the evolutionary chain are you? Not only did they make you look stupid, but now you're calling them stupid after the fact. His brilliant comment, "You look like the missing link." My response, why would anyone worry about a mentally ill person insulting them? You're mentally ill. Delusional, characterized by or holding false beliefs or judgments about external reality that are held despite incontrovertible evidence to the contrary. I think calling Dylan Mulvaney a woman falls under this category, typically as a symptom of a mental condition. Patients with schizophrenia may show dysfunctional impulsivity and impulsive aggression. So, he's basically lashing out from a dark place in his head. Wow, you are special indeed. Just more impulsive aggression. I just reminded him that you shouldn't call people who made you look stupid special. They made you look stupid, so not the best insult at the best time. Why would anyone worry about a mentally ill person insulting them? You're mentally ill. Delusional, characterized by or holding false beliefs or judgments about external reality that are held despite incontrovertible evidence to the contrary. I think calling Dylan Mulvaney a woman falls under this category, typically as a symptom of a mental condition. Patients with schizophrenia may show dysfunctional impulsivity and impulsive aggression. Made you look stupid, so how far down on the evolutionary ladder are you there, Slingblade? $6 billion later. Then again, I simply reminded him that the Looney left took a real black woman off a syrup bottle and put a fake white woman on a beer can. Well, guess who's back? And I thought they took my post down, but they didn't because someone responded to it. Someone really, really stupid and probably living in their mother's, in father's basement, probably mother's basement. Because I would like to think a grown man wouldn't put up with this shit. But let's have a look. Occupy Spokane. Occupy these nuts, okay? Anyway, yeah, always anti-fascist, always anti-fascist, it says. There hasn't been a fascist since the 1950s, because, like, my grandfather went and shot them all. This is FTP, I assume that means fuck the police. Next time you're in trouble, go call a crack addict. See if he can help you out. So I posted, I'm pretty sure Antifa protesters up there, if they face a girl by themselves. And I guess they went and checked out my profile looking for something, maybe an address. Good luck with that, you little pussies. Anyway, says you have a Punisher ring. I think it's right here somewhere. My Punisher ring, yeah, right here. This is my Punisher ring. Yeah, I bought it. Yeah. I bought it here in Brazil to commemorate my time in Iraq because one of the symbols of Task Force Sabre was the Punisher skull. But anyway, he comes in. He comes. You have a Punisher ring. Punisher hates cops. I came back with, he was a cop, you fucking idiot. He just hated criminals. And the cops weren't arresting criminals. You know, domestic terrorists like Antifa, shit like that. So he killed the criminals. Kind of like today. Looney leftist DAs aren't prosecuting criminals, so people should buy some guns and start putting them in the fucking ground. And he comes back with his, let me see. I also had a Punisher emblem on my body armor when I was in Iraq. So he sends me some Newsweek article about Punisher lays to beat down on cops who worship the Punisher are the worst kind of cops. You support vigilante killings, judicial killings, general vigilantism. Based on what you've said, you don't get your news from actual news sources through since you think Antifa is the bad guy. What he just that's communism. These people, by the way, want communism. You know, the very system that's killed 100 million people. I go for the conservative estimate of only 63 million because, well, it sounds a little better. And then, of course, I gave him the Ballad of the Safety Pin, which I think triggered him a little bit. And I said, well, I wouldn't call them bad guys. Fucking stupid. Oh, wait a minute. Where was it? Oh, yeah. He says, Based on what you said, you don't get your news from actual news sources, though, since you think Antifa is the bad guys. An inconvenient truth. These idiots and these idiots are exactly the same. Idiots. My grandfather was Antifa. He was 1st Infantry Division in World War II. You people are just a bunch of fucking idiots living in your mom's basement thinking that communism is great because you're living in your mom's basement. And I responded with, well, I wouldn't call them bad guys, fucking stupid, but they don't rate bad guys. They rate annoying. They rate criminal. They pick on teenage girls, who, at least one I know of, has kicked their ass. I think he got a boo-boo on his finger. Are they the good guys? No. They're just fucking brainwashed, CRT, indoctrinated drones. And then I came, yes, I know you're all going to come get me. Heard it all before, hence why I wrote the song. Still waiting on you idiots. However, it's a longer drive now. You're not the fucking idiots. You're not the first fucking idiots to babble what you're saying. And then he comes back with, oh boy, you realize CRT is just teaching accurate history instead of whitewashing it, right? Let me guess, you don't believe in systemic racism. Of course, you're an old white person. Has anybody, next to the KKK maybe and neo-Nazis, seen a whiter group than Antifa? Matter of fact, I think I'm going to go check this douchebag's profile, because I'm going to guarantee if there's a picture there, it's a white fucking liberal lecturing me on racism. The Marxist history of CRT, you can find those over on my YouTube page. I'm not going to put them here. Let me see. Nathan, I slept well at night knowing I'm on the right side of history, and your people are a dying breed, destined to wind up in whatever version of hell you believe in. And then I posted another video, we're not teaching CRT. And then, yeah, posting anything that ties something to Marxism is just going to make good people support it more. Then I put educate, not indoctrinate. And he says, so is taking your kids to church from the time they're young indoctrinated in your eyes? I asked because it absolutely is indoctrination. Why do they always assume that we take our kids to church and shit? Why do they always assume we're talking religion? We're just talking common sense. I would prefer common sense. And then I listed the virtues of the woke. And then I come back with putting the 10 Commandments in classrooms apparently isn't indoctrination, but I'm guessing teaching about the Founding Fathers being virulent slave owners is indoctrination to you, despite the fact that it's true. They teach slavery. They also teach that the founders had slaves. It's taught. That's how you know about it, dumbass. Let me see. I posted left tactic against racism, attack people on basis of race. So that's racism. I see you're also a transphobe. No, I'm not afraid of trans people. I'm not afraid of mentally ill people. Not if they don't have a gun or a knife or something, or they're not cannibals or something. I get along fine with mentally ill people. I used to work in a head trauma unit. So no, I'm not afraid of mentally ill people. And then at the... I posted critical race theory, race-based Marxism. So basically, they're racists. Antifa is racist. Look, and they again, I got to go back to. Oh, let me check this douchebag's profile, because I'm going to guess he's probably whiter than I am. Oh, let me see here. Oh wow, look at that, pretty white there, bud. Yeah, let me see here. Study. There he is. There he is. Yeah. Mr. White Bread, you're a racist. There we go. Featured. Wow. Yeah, Mr. White Bread, you're a racist. Okay. So we got to establish he's a fucking idiot and a virtual signaling fucking idiot. So, yeah. Gotta love that shit. So... So, guess who's back? These terrorists don't ever give up. Well, wannabe terrorists, they can't fight very well. They pick on teenage girls, and they don't pick on people like me because I'll fuck them up, and they know it. Anyway, I don't believe this idiot is American because his grasp of the English language is not very good. But anyway, let's have a look at this wonder tart. Now, he keeps calling everyone else fascist, but who were the biggest fascists during the pandemic? That's right, the mask Nazis. I'm wondering how many boosters this fuckwad got, because he's supposedly Antifa, right? Like they don't follow the government rules. They're anarchists. They're anti-fascists, and the government during the pandemic were the biggest fascists I've ever fucking met. Get vaccinated or you can't go outside. Get vaccinated or you can't work. Fuck you. Let me see. Fabio Sigi, I think it's Italian or whatever. He's a fucking idiot. Anyway, Antifa hanged. You see how he wrote hanged. Fascists by the feet. And I responded with, no, anti-fascist, shot fascists. They were called the United States Army. My grandfather happened to be one of them with the 1st Infantry Division. There are no fascists left, just terrorists like you. And then I down here I put some neo-Nazis and some Antifa and it says, do you know the difference between these two groups? Nothing. They're just fucking terrorists. And then he comes back, and then I asked him, which famous socialist said this, Bernie Sanders or AOC? There is a difference between the theoretical knowledge of socialism and the practical life of socialism. People are not born socialist, but must first be taught how to become them. Anyone want to guess who said this? Bernie Sanders, AOC? Nope. Adolf fucking Hitler. There's no difference between Antifa and the supposed fascists that they fucking babble about. And then I just pointed out, like, city cops clearing operation, Antifa shot at cops, injured one, but they killed the fucking terrorist. So, cops 1, terrorist 0. And let me see, with terrorists, do you mean white fascists compensating small PP and no brain and no dignity with racism, homophobia, bigotry, and automatic guns? Yes, they always go to that name-calling bullshit because they got nothing. If I were, let's say, a teenage girl, they'd probably try and pepper spray me because they know I'd whoop their ass. Wait a minute, I'm not a teenage girl. So, yeah, I'd still whoop their ass. I just reminded them the fascists are all dead, dumbass. My grandfather took care of them. There's just you fucking idiots. Cops 2, terrorist 0. Well, they shot another Antifa douchebag. And then people crying over beer and Jack Daniels. Crybaby, shitty, transphobic fascists. And I just reminded, yeah, stop calling me a fascist. I'm not a socialist. Cops 3, terrorist 0. Then again, he goes back to calling names. You are a coward fascist. Your lack of instruction can't save you from being a fascist, even if you prefer being a Nazi, maybe, but they are same shit for everyone but you. And I just reminded him that, again, I'm not a socialist, so I'm not a fascist. You're a socialist, you're a fascist. I don't wear a mask, so I'm not a coward, and my ass has never been kicked by a girl, so I'm obviously not a member of Antifa. And then I pointed out cops 4, terrorist 0. And let me see, Fabio came back with, I bet you spent 8 years with your guns hidden in your ass because Obama is coming and your tongue is still stitched in Trump's ass. What a delusional failure. Yes, when do you like have to start worrying about mentally ill people insulting you? I worked on a head trauma unit. They used to yell insults just randomly, like almost like fucking Tourette's. I had a guy, I liked him too. I'm not going to give his name. I think he's passed away, but still, you're not supposed to talk about your clients anyway. He used to walk up behind me, grab my hand, look up at me, smile, and go, "You're a dirty, rotten son of a bitch." I go, you got me figured out, buddy. By the way, he was mentally ill. So, This guy's obviously mentally ill. He thinks, one, he can fight, and two, that there are fascists out there somewhere. Oh no, I spent 23 years in the military, so I always had guns, somewhere, that your parents paid for because you don't obviously have a job since it's Thursday, 9 o'clock in the morning, and you're not at work. Cops 10, terrorist 0. And again, he comes back with an insult. Girls doesn't kick shit like you. Stop sharing demented video only people like you could trust. Yeah, he must be talking about the videos of the Antifa getting shot and arrested, which I like after actually talking with these people. Yeah, we need more of that. Then he comes back with another insult. These people obviously don't get, like, the government took my soul a long time ago. So their insults from the mentally ill don't bother me. Matter of fact, they give me power. The government took my soul. The army took my soul. Your puny insults give me power. They also give me content for my podcast. So, skipping school made you a fascist without instruction and a pathetic loser. I guess that's what it says. You are as scared by books as by little girls. Please stop showing you can even count. Nobody's impressed her. I bet you think to be a strong patriot, not a piece of nothing. Obviously, like not a strong understanding of the English language. And I remind him, yes, I'm still trying to figure out how anyone cares about insults from the mentally ill. Cops 10, terrorist 0. Insult mentally ill. I don't. Half the time I can't even figure out what he's saying. But we have a national holiday celebrating Antifa. My dear asshole. And so in most European countries, you know, all that communist countries with universal health care and no school shootings. And I just told him, yeah, we generally celebrate the end of World War II. You know, the end of Antifa. And then I think I shared this before. Cops 10, terrorist 0. And then you're not anti-fascist. There are no fascists. There's just fuckheads like you. Terrorists. The fascists were beaten in 1945 by people like my grandfather. You're just a CRT indoctrinated drone who believes he can fight. You can't. And then I shared my ballad of the safety pin. And he continues, but now repeat it, trying to be a pathetic copy of a drill sergeant. And then I posted, cercado por maldito idiotas, which means surrounded by fucking idiots. From here on, I speak to him in Portuguese because fucking he can't speak English anyway. And ainda tentando lá terrorista, which means still trying there, terrorist. Then I asked him, qual socialista famoso disse isso? Vamos banir a necessidade, vamos banir o medo. A essência do socialismo é o bem-estar humano, enraizado em uma vida mais plena para cada americano, desde a infância até a velhice. Which means, which famous socialist said this? And we shall banish want, we shall banish fear. The essence of socialism is human welfare, rooted in a fuller life for every American from childhood to old age. Would you care to guess who said this? Was it Bernie Sanders? AOC? Maybe Marx? No, again, it was Adolf Hitler. I just changed the word German to American. And I believe this is where we've left it so far. The Looney left are still babbling about Kyle Rittenhouse, posting lies. Did Kyle Rittenhouse live in Kenosha? Yes, he lived there on and off with his father. The 3 people he shot traveled over 120 miles to get to Kenosha. Kyle Rittenhouse shot 3 Looney leftists who were rioting and tried to kill him. He shot 1 convicted wife beater. He shot a convicted child molester. I know how much you loony leftists love those. And he shot an idiot out on bail for weapons charges who had pulled, wait for it, a handgun. Be like Kyle. This video is from Occupy Democrats. Occupy Spokane is probably a huge fan. An American left-wing media outlet built around a Facebook page and corresponding website. Established in 2012, it publishes false information, hyper-partisan content, and clickbait. Posts originating from the Occupy Democrats Facebook page are among the most widely shared political content on Facebook. In other words, they never tell the truth, even according to other left-wing websites, such as PolitiFact, where I got that definition. The brainwashed left, just droning.
There, man. Dude, you are the worst human being known to mankind. I want you to know that what you have done to this state, to the United States, to everything else in this world, I don't care that you're not here. What you have done to people's families, what you have done to everybody else in this system. Son. Don't call me son. One.
Data.
So I have some more videos from libs of TikTok, or as I like to call it, yep, they're pretty much out of their fucking gourd. Anyway, so that's I'm just going to get that first. The first video is already making its rounds on other conservative areas, but holy shit.
Okay. My name is Leah McGeever.
My first question is, this came out in 2023. What's with the mask? I don't see, yeah, what's with the mask? Remember my virtues of the woke? Obedience is strength. I think we're kind of taking it, like a little far with this little psycho here. But let's, I digress. Let's move along with the crazy part.
I live in D6. I hate a lot of people on this board.
I'm sure they care, right? They're making $200,000 a year. You're probably still living in your parents' house, and probably go off a lot about fat phobia and transphobia.
Yeah, for the reasons that led up to Banco Brown's death.
Banco Brown is some idiot who got shot in a Target by a security guard. The security guard is facing murder charges.
So often I prepare something, maybe it's a little historical, maybe a little poetic, whatever. There's a lot of performative people on this board who will say one thing in support of black people, homeless people, trans people, and then immediately stab you in the face.
How can you say, I've been indoctrinated with CRT, without saying, I've been indoctrinated with CRT?
Being racist, transphobic, anti-homeless.
Oh, so, again, how can you say, I've been indoctrinated with CRT, without actually saying, I've been indoctrinated with CRT?
So,
oh, this person is nailing it.
I don't have any words prepared today. I just want you to feel our pain. I don't know if you can at this point based off your policy choices, but I have to pretend you have some form of empathy left. So, I am going.
Oh no, taking off her mask. She's going to die. Or, yeah, I think it's a she. It's a she. Just a very fat and crazy one.
Going to spend the next minute screaming.
Awesome. There's nothing wrong with this person. Mentally fine. Matter of fact, to the Looney left, this would make a good teacher. And that's why I think either you should be homeschooling or maybe looking into a private school.
Because that is what is going on in here.
No, it's going on in here. Not here. Here. You're fucking nuts.
That is what the trans genocide in this country.
Transgenocide, they like to use that. Do you know who kill most transgenders? Their partners. And then, of course, they have that 35 to 50% over the national average ceasing to exist themselves. So even 35% above in areas that celebrate them. Oh, you're so brave. Brave for what? You're mentally ill and didn't go get treatment. You just...
in this city has brought me to.
Nothing wrong with this person at all. And there's someone behind them. Nothing wrong with them either.
Imagine that!
Remember when we used to lock people up like this? Wasn't that great?
I hate what you've done to us! I hate what you're doing to us! I hate you, board of supervisors! I hate you, London Breed! I hate you, Jenkins!
Hold D.I. Jenkins accountable. Hold
Hey, man!
Jenkins accountable.
Cowards!
He needs to suffer in solitary confinement with that security guard. Y'all have these armed guards. He's walking free. Y'all have a man
Next speaker,
walking free in the
please.
city. He's walking free for killing somebody.
Capitalism was built on stolen land.
Yeah, I always love when these white liberals comment on Native Americans and stolen land, but somehow I'm trying to figure out how it goes to black Americans too. Somehow they go to black Americans. By the way, I am so in favor of reparations. I believe anyone who votes Democrat owes this country reparations.
Stolen labor and stolen resources. And a check.
Just think if my ancestors, my Mohawk Indian ancestors, back then they were known as Iroquois, had and enforced immigration laws, I wouldn't be listening to this stupid shit right now. I've learned my lesson. Close the fucking border.
Today could not undo the cumulative impact of generations of that stolen wealth in all of those categories. And so I think it has to come in the form of land, labor, and resources in an ongoing fashion. And there are structures that we have that could be flipped to begin to do that reparations. In fact, my opponent here mentioned 5 Points and the corridor and what has happened to our businesses there. Part of what has catalyzed that exponential decimation of black businesses is the 5 Points bid.
No, what has destroyed black businesses is lockdowns, record inflation because you elected fucking Sniffy Joe. I think everyone who voted for Sniffy Joe owes the country reparations. Because the prior administration had the lowest black unemployment rate in history. Okay.
Business Improvement District, which further steals from the community through taxation.
Yep.
And I think there's a model that could be redistributed.
Ooh. How can you say I've been indoctrinated with CRT without saying I've been indoctrinated with CRT? How can you say I'm a communist without using the word communist? The word is redistributive, which is basically a made-up fucking word.
Instead of a bid collecting extra taxation from the black and brown businesses that are struggling, you could be collecting those extra taxes from white-led businesses all over the city.
Oh no, that's not racist at all.
and redistributing them to black and brown owned businesses who are not targeted.
Yeah, we call that communism, and yeah, and racism.
Or who are simply just black or brown owned, and that's one way to give back in the business form fashion. I think when we talk about resources being returned, this is where consumer-owned or municipally owned resources are important, because we are locked out of owning our control over our basic needs like water or utilities or any of those things. There is a way for us to change that structure.
Yeah, you open a company that sells a utility, for instance, electric or water. Yeah, that's called capitalism, and it's the most fair system in the world.
And put black and brown people in ownership positions over our basic needs.
There we go. Equity. They don't care about equality, they want equity. CRT.
I also really want to point out that the Basic Income Project could be, if it were focused, an important way to return a check to an individual in an ongoing fashion.
Welfare, which is, by the way, which is our largest federal budget item. The last time I checked, we were paying $1.3 trillion to welfare. That's where your tax dollars are going. Well, also, you know, we have 81 billion going to foreign countries' pension plans and buying them weapons. We also, certain countries, we actually provide their military. So, yeah, welfare.
But in its current format, is not reparations or not close to reparations. One, it doesn't focus on black and brown people. Two, what they are experimenting with is unhoused people, and it's not.
They're not unhoused, they're homeless people. They're usually on drugs, alcohol, something, and they're homeless. They don't have a job, they're homeless, unhoused.
A livable or prosperous wage is a welfare wage. And
yeah, that's what welfare is. It's temporary. It's supposed to get you by until you have a job. J-O-B, job.
we know how that has worked.
By the way, according to Sniffy Joe, everybody in America should have a job now. Everyone. It's the strongest economy in 40 years, even though we've had 3 bank collapses that the government is now paying for.
Those types of checks have not served us well, and we need to go far beyond welfare wages and go to prosperous wages, because we don't want to just survive anymore, and reparation goal should not be survival, it should be repairing the harm, which is the entire economy.
Getting ready to head out for the day, but before I do, let me just show everybody what we have for Pride Week. So
Okay, I've asked a million of them. I ask this. Being gay is, you're born that way, right? And they always say, yeah. I was like, then what the fuck are you proud of? Making it out of the birth canal without getting fucking lost? My uncle was gay. We knew he was gay before he did. Before he at least admitted to himself. And he just lived his life. He didn't go out on gay prides and assless chaps or anything. He didn't even go to gay bars. He just went to bars like with everybody else. Because nothing to be proud of. I mean, it's something you do in your bedroom. Nobody gives a shit.
Schools, GSA, we have an annual Pride Week, and
again, proud of what? How about having a week where if you all get all A's, we have fucking, awards for you.
Next week kicks off our Pride Week. So, what we did last year, we're doing again this year, and we will be doing a coin war for donations towards the Trevor Project. And this.
Oh my God, I need this. Watching this shit. Can you say homeschool? Yeah, I think you saúde. Oh, wait a minute. Brinde a você, brinde a mim. Mas se você não aguente uma piada, foda-se brinde a mim. Which basically means, here's to you, here's to me, but if you can't take a joke, fuck you and here's to me. So, Back to the Looney leftist teacher who is not grooming your children.
This year, kids get little prizes and things for donating. So last year, the biggest hits that everyone wanted were just regular old pride flags. So they donate.
Again, proud of what? Not getting lost coming out of the fucking birth canal?
50 cents and they get a pride flag. Or we also have pronoun pins.
Open an English book. Don't need to make pins. They're all there. Pretty sure your students probably have English books. I hope.
So we have different pins that they can get for donating as well. If they donate up to $1, they can get a little bracelet. So we have two different types. We have Love is Love, and then we have ones that say Pride. So I think those will be a really big hit.
Again, proud of what?
And then lastly, we have these awesome little bride pins that they can get. I should have made that a longer video. I also want to show you our decorations. So we have a big old sign that says Coin War. And then we ordered for display, and I'm probably going to put it in my classroom, a pride flag.
Proud of what?
That says everyone is welcome here. And then we have a flag banner with a whole variety of different flags.
I wonder if the pedophile colors are on there too. You know, because these people seem to like pedophiles. Yeah. Or, excuse me, I can't say pedophile. MAP, minor attracted persons. Or mobile bore site panels, as I call them.
And then, in addition to our stuff, our study halls are doing a door decorating contest, so they will decorate the outside of the doors, hopefully in theme with Pride Week, and so that was really fun last year.
Proud of what?
To walk up and down the hallways, and all of our kids could see like all the different doors and felt supported and all of that stuff. And then we also have shirts that are coming that say y'all means all. So yeah, I'm just super excited, and I know our kids are super excited. I'm hopeful. Last year it was really successful, so I think with all of these fun little like gifts and things, it'll even be better this year.
We're not indoctrinating your kids at all. Oh.
And a good Samaritan trying to stop two alleged thieves at a TJ Maxx in Muraloma.
I have no idea why people are moving to Texas and Florida from California and New York. I have no idea.
A video captured by a customer showing the takedown at the location on Illuminati Avenue. At least two women wearing black hoodies seen trying to walk out with arms full of purses. But when the second one tried to leave, a man jumped in to stop her, tackling her, eventually knocking her to the ground.
Let me go. Let her go. Let her go. Let me go.
Let me get this straight. They're wearing a mask. So the mask mandate they'll follow, but not the don't steal shit mandate.
Let me go.
After a brief struggle, the alleged thief was able to get away. It's unclear what merchandise actually was taken. So far, no arrests have been made.
Something keeps calling me back to this comment, and I think it's the fact that, like, as a black woman, you are using white supremacist talking points to defend your transphobia, and that.
I'm not afraid of mentally ill people. I think they should get treatment, obviously, with a suicide rate 35 to 50% higher than the national average. But no, I'm not afraid. It's called forensic pathology. I've studied that with my criminal justice. But yeah,
it's really heartbreaking, because do you realize that talking about things like bone structure is what white supremacists do?
How many neo-Nazis do you know that are fucking smart enough to even mention bone structure or DNA? They're fucking morons. She's crazy.
To, like, separate themselves from black people. Like, historically, that's what they've done.
No, they just say they're white people are superior. But they don't know shit about forensic pathology.
White supremacists have said that white people and black people have DNA. We're different species. We have
not different species, different races. They have different words for the races too. But they're not smart enough. They may say different species because they're fucking retarded. But yeah, you can't change your gender, so yeah, it's called forensic pathology. So yeah.
Different bones, we have different muscles.
Yeah, that's why some black Americans are better at certain sports.
As a way to be like, black people, other. We don't want them around us. And now you're doing the same thing with trans women. Like that.
There's no such thing as trans women. They're men with a mental illness.
So that's heartbreaking. Especially because that same rhetoric will be used against you in the future.
It already is. You're using it now. CRT. Oh, white people are bad. And I can go out and find videos. Don't really need to. I think everybody's heard it. BLM. Buy larger mansions. CRT. Yeah. It's already being used. And to you, I'm pretty sure, because, most of those loony leftists are like that. Everyone who is not a minority is racist. Period. Doesn't matter if you are or not. So I don't even fuck with it. You're racist. You're a fucking idiot. I don't mince words. You're a fucking idiot.
Transphobia is used against black women all the time.
Well, if they're women, they're not trans. So no, it's not. So you're a fucking idiot.
But sure, your bone structure makes you a woman.
Yes, along with your DNA. It's called forensic pathology. I actually have a whole video on it.
7th, 10th grade at Nichols Middle School. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you today. I never thought that the shirt I wore to school on March 21st would lead me to speak with you today. On that Tuesday morning, I was taken out of gym class to sit down with 2 adults for what turned out to be a very uncomfortable talk. I was told that people were complaining about the words on my shirt, that my shirt was making some students feel unsafe.
Unsafe. What did it have on it? A swastika, the hammer and sickle. What did it have on it?
Yes, words on a shirt made people feel unsafe. They told me that I wasn't in trouble, but it sure felt like I was. I was told that I would need to remove my shirt before I could return to class. When I nicely told them that I didn't want to do that, they called my father. Thankfully, my dad supported my decisions and came to pick me up. What did my shirt say? 5 simple words. There are only 2 genders.
Oh my God! He actually has a shirt that has biology on it. And the truth.
Nothing harmful, nothing threatening. Just a statement I believe to be a fact. I have been told that my shirt was targeting a protected class. Who is this protected class?
CRT. It's in the schools. If you don't believe, they're indoctrinating the kids. You listen to this.
Are their feelings more important than my rights? I don't complain when I see pride flags and diversity posters hung throughout the school. Do you know why? Because others have a right to their beliefs just as I do.
I'm still waiting for someone to tell me, what are you proud of?
Not one person, staff, or student told me that they were bothered by what I was wearing. Actually, just the opposite. Several kids told me that they supported my actions and that they wanted one too. I experienced...
So basically, the adults were offended. So they had to harass a child. If you have to harass a child, you're a coward and shouldn't be around children. Stop grooming kids.
I was told that the shirt was a disruption to learning. No one got up and stormed out of class. No one burst into tears.
You mean biology is disruptive of learning? Basic biology.
I'm sure I would have noticed if they had. I experience disruptions to my learning every day. Kids acting out in class are a disruption, yet nothing is done. Why do the rules apply to one yet not another?
Because they're a protected class. CRT. They're victims of mental illness that no one wants to treat.
I feel like these adults were telling me that it wasn't okay for me to have an opposing view. Their arguments were weak, in my opinion. I didn't go to school that day to hurt feelings or cause trouble. I have learned a lot from this experience. I learned that a lot of other students share my view. I learned that adults don't always do the right thing or make the right decisions. I know that I have a right to wear a shirt with those 5 words. Even at 12 years old, I have my own political opinions, and I have a right.
That's not even political. That's scientific. It is fact. Has been fact for hundreds of thousands of years. If everyone were like the alphabet mafia, the human race would go extinct. Mother Nature always wins.
To express those opinions. Even at school, this right is called the First Amendment to the Constitution. My hope in being here tonight is to bring the school committee's attention to this issue. I hope that you will speak up for the rest of us so we can express ourselves without being pulled out of class. Next time it may not only be me, there might be more students that decide to speak out. Thank you for your time and good night.
Thanks.
Oh, but they're not indoctrinating your kids, not at all. They have to harass a child, 12-year-old kid. That makes them cowards and makes them they shouldn't be around kids, I'll tell you that now. I have to note that I have to watch what I say on this topic because YouTube might have a fit. Welcome to the People's Republic of the United States. Now, the Looney leftist reporter is literally the example of the games that the Looney left play with words to try and convince their brainwashed followers into believing pew-pew control will stop violence.
People point out there are 120.5 guns per 100 people in the United States. Why isn't it the safest country on earth?
First, his math is horrible. In 2020, Race.org reported that the estimated total of pew-pews in the United States was estimated at 433.9 million for a population of 331 million people. Also, he tries to make his followers believe that America is oh so dangerous.
People point out there are 120.5 guns per 100 people in the United States.
I believe because the school systems are destroyed in this country now, and the behavior habits in this country has changed radically in my lifetime.
This old man has it nailed. Sane people don't shoot other people without justification. The Looney left has been trying to normalize mental illness for decades. And we wonder why this generation is the most drug-addicted and self-cease-to-existing generation in history. By the way, the greatest illegal use of a pew-pew in the United States is self-stop existing.
Okay, but the number of guns doesn't have to do with the incidence of gun violence.
The number of pew-pews, no. There was a time you could buy an automatic pew-pew through the mail, and they didn't have school shootings. They used to have pew-pewing clubs at schools. They didn't have school shootings. Pew-pews haven't changed. People have. We have more kids growing up with mental illness and medicated than ever before, and people making excuses for them. Go over to my YouTube page and watch the playlist on CRT.
I don't believe so at all. I don't believe it.
It just happens to be that the country with the most guns has the most gun violence.
Another play on words, instead of just violence, he uses the word pew-pew violence. You are twice as likely to have a long metal object inserted into you in London than to be pew-pewed in the United States. You are 3 times as likely to be involuntarily ceased to exist in Brazil, a country with strict pew-pew control laws, than in the United States. You see that play on words? America is far from the most dangerous country in the world. The United States doesn't even make the top 30 most dangerous countries in the world, according to worlddata.com. A challenge to any loony leftist out there. Tell me which pew-pew law will stop criminals and the mentally ill and not mess with the rights of people who haven't done anything wrong. The pew-pew is the only product in the world that is blamed for people's shitty behavior. Just for background, just to show my street cred, as it were, I spent 23 years in the Army with 2 tours in combat, one to Iraq, one to Afghanistan. I retired in 2010, and it was getting bad then with the death by PowerPoint on woke bullshit. Complaints by veteran soldiers about younger generations who lack discipline and traditional values are as old as war itself. Grizzled veterans in the Greek phalanx, Roman legions, and Napoleon's elite corps all believed that the failings of the young would be the ruin of their armies. This is not the chief worry of grizzled American veterans today. The largest threat they see by far to our current military is the weakening of its fabric by radical, progressive, or woke policies being imposed, not by a rising generation of slackers, but by the very leaders charged with ensuring their readiness. We have a mentally ill admiral who thinks he's a she and is in charge of America's mental health. It might explain why so many kids are on drugs and voluntarily ceasing to exist is at record levels. Wokeness in the military is being imposed by elected and appointed leaders in the White House, Congress, and the Pentagon who have little understanding of the purpose, character, traditions, and requirements of the institutions they are trying to change. The push for it didn't begin in the last 2 years under the Biden administration, nor will it automatically end if a non-woke administration is elected in 2024. Wokeness in the military has become ingrained, just like in our schools and government institutions, and unless the policies that flow from it are illegal or directly jeopardize readiness, senior military leaders have little alternative but to comply. The Army's changed its recruiting slogan from Army Strong to We Can't Win a War. You'll probably get left behind. We'll give the enemy $85 billion in operational military equipment. But hey, we're woke as fuck. Woke ideology undermines military readiness in various ways. It undermines cohesiveness by emphasizing differences based on race, ethnicity, and sex. CRT in the military gets people killed. It undermines leadership authority by introducing questions about whether promotion is based on merit or quota requirements. It leads to military personnel serving in specialties and areas for which they are not qualified or ready, and it takes time and resources away from training activities and weapons development that contribute to readiness. Wokeness in the military also affects relations between the military and society at large. It acts as a disincentive for many young Americans in terms of enlistment, and it undermines wholehearted support for the military by a significant portion of the American public at a time when it's needed the most. Unlike the Bud Light boycott, good people not joining gets other people killed. They're wondering why they can't make their recruitment quotas. Do the trans know that now, because they fought so hard for it, they have to sign up for the draft? If you transitioned from female to male, you should be forced to sign up for the selective service anyway. Welcome to consequences, dumbass. Let me give some examples of what I mean by wokeness. In 2015, then Secretary of the Navy Ray Mabus rejected out of hand a Marine Corps study concluding that gender-integrated combat formations did not move as quickly or pew-pew as accurately, and that women were twice as likely as men to suffer combat injuries. He rejected it because it did not comport with the Obama administration's political agenda. That same year, the Department of Defense opened all combat jobs in the U.S. military to women. The Secretary of Defense, Ashton Carter, committed to gender-neutral standards to ensure that female service members could meet the demanding rigors involved in qualifying for combat. Since then, the Army has been working for a decade to put in place the gender-neutral test promised by Carter, but after finding that women were not scoring as highly as men, and under fierce pressure from advocacy groups, the Army threw out the test. Now there is no test to determine whether any soldier can meet the fitness requirements for combat specialties. In 2015, near the end of his second term, President Obama initiated a change to the Pentagon's long-standing policy on transgender individuals in the military. Before that change could take effect, the incoming Trump administration put it on hold, awaiting further study. Subsequent evidence presented to Secretary of Defense James Mattis, including the fact that transgender individuals suffering from gender dysphoria attempt voluntary ceasing to exist and experience severe anxiety at 9 times the rate of the general population, raised legitimate concerns about their fitness for military service. Yeah, handing a pew-pew to someone who has a higher than normal ceasing to exist ideation and anxiety. What could go wrong? This led the Trump administration to impose reasonable restrictions on military service by those suffering gender dysphoria. But only hours after his inauguration in January 2021, President Biden signed an executive order that did away with these restrictions and opened military service to all transgender individuals. Since then, the Biden administration has decreed that active members of the military can take time off from their duties to obtain sex change surgeries and all related hormones and drugs at taxpayers' expense. I remember when people used the dentist as an excuse to get out of duty. Now it's, I'm going to get my dick chopped off. Along similar lines, the Biden administration has recently ended support for a long-standing policy prohibiting individuals affected with HIV from serving in combat zones. Oh goody, not only are you going to have to worry about dying from bombs and bullets, but now about being infected with HIV. The policy had been based on sound science tied to the need for HIV medications and the danger of cross-infection through shared blood. As we all know, explosions, like IEDs or pew-pew balls, don't spread blood or get on other people. Physical fitness has long been a hallmark of the U.S. military, but in recent years, fitness standards have been progressively watered down in pursuit of the woke goal of leveling the playing field. Yeah, being in shape to fight is misogynist. Didn't you know that? The Army, for instance, recently lowered its minimum passing standards for push-ups to an unimpressive total of 10 and increased its minimum 2-mile run from 19 to 23 minutes. The new Space Force is considering doing away with the periodic fitness test altogether. Can you roll your desk chair from here to here in 30 minutes? Back in 2016, Navy Secretary Mattis decreed that Navy sailors would no longer be known by traditional job titles such as corpsman, adopting instead new gender-neutral titles such as medical technician. The resulting blowback was so severe from enlisted sailors who cherished those historic titles that the Navy was forced to reverse the changes. But wokeness has a way of coming back, and last year the Navy released a training video to help sailors understand the proper way of using personal pronouns, a skill Americans have traditionally mastered in grade school. The video instructs service members that they need to create a safe space for everybody by using inclusive language, for instance, saying "hey everybody" instead of "hey guys." Can the return of gender-neutral job titles be far behind? Sergeant, my personal pronouns are... Your personal pronoun is fuckface, because you're a fuckface. Now push, fuckface. Much of the emphasis of wokeness today is on promoting the idea that America is fatally flawed by systemic racism and white privilege. Our fighting men and women are required to sit through indoctrination programs, death by PowerPoint, often with roots in the Marxist tenets of critical race theory, either by Pentagon dictate or through carelessness by senior leaders who delegate their command responsibilities to private diversity, equity, and inclusion instructors. These indoctrination programs differentiate service members along racial and gender lines, which runs completely counter to the military imperative to build cohesive based on common loyalties, training, and standards. Traditional training and education programs used to combat racial and sex discrimination have been supplemented by programs that promote discrimination by replacing the American ideal of equality with the progressive ideal of equity, which in practice means unequal treatment based on group identity. The Biden administration's Chief of Naval Operations, Admiral Michael Gilday, decided last year to add Ibram X. Kendi's book, How to Be an Anti-Racist, one of the leading source books on critical race theory, to his list of recommended readings. To give an idea of how radical Kendi's book is, one of its famous or infamous arguments is that capitalism is essentially racist, and that to truly be anti-racist, you also have to be truly anti-capitalist. What he means is communist. Do you know what no one says when they visit a military cemetery? I wonder what color he was. Never. That's just you woke people who worry about that shit. Racism is on life support, except there's too much money in it. Mr. I Hate Capitalism Kendi gets paid $300 an hour to give speeches, telling white people how horrible capitalism is and how horrible white people are. Last year, Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin told the House Armed Services Committee, "We don't teach critical race theory. We don't embrace critical race theory," and I think that's a spurious conversation. Despite repeated denials by Austin and others in the Pentagon that critical race theory is being taught in the military, there is no shortage of evidence to the contrary. The Looney left teachers unions and school boards do the same. Then the idiots go on TikTok and babble on about how they're doing just that. Go watch my video titled, "We Don't Teach Critical Race Theory Here," and take note of the buzzwords all CRT indoctrinated drones use. Indeed, last year a senior officer in the U.S. Space Force, Lieutenant Colonel Matthew Lohmeyer, was removed from command for publicly describing the role of critical race theory in indoctrinating service members at his installation. And just this summer, multiple media outlets reported on training materials on the problems of whiteness obtained through Freedom of Information Act requests from the U.S. Military Academy at West Point. One training slide read, "In order to understand racial inequality and slavery, it is first necessary to address whiteness." That's not racist at all. Congressmen have obtained curricular materials from West Point showing lectures titled "Understanding Whiteness and White Rage" and classroom slides labeled "White Power at West Point." I heard this one yesterday. Some white liberal, whiter than I am, lecturing me on racism and white rage. I live in Brazil. If I had white rage, then I'd be losing my shit right now. When challenged about this, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Mark Milley, became defensive. "I want to understand white rage, and I'm white," he said. "I've read Mao Zedong. I've read Karl Marx. I've read Lenin. That doesn't make me a communist." But he is a communist and a traitor. Didn't he call our adversaries behind the back of the commander-in-chief? Didn't he admit that he wouldn't follow a lawful order? Welcome to the woke military. We used to shoot people that did that shit. Wasn't that cool? The rationale for reading communist writings in the service academies in the past has been that by doing so, we learned about our Soviet enemies at the time and how they thought. How is that analogous to reading leftist tracts accusing white people, including service members, just by virtue of their being white, of racism? That's actually the definition of racism. Last year, Secretary Austin alarmingly called for a one-day military-wide stand-down to address the so-called problem of extremism in the ranks, despite the fact that there has been no evidence presented, including in testimony by senior officials, that there is a problem of extremism in the military. Commanding officers were required to discuss the topic using a PowerPoint presentation that included TED Talks asking the question, "What is up with us white people?" If you want to see extremism, just check out any ANTIFA or Kid Grooming Alphabet Mafia account on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. Remember when we used to shoot terrorists? Wasn't that cool? I'm with ANTIFA. You're bleeding. Since 2008, the Air Force has created at least 8 barrier analysis working groups to create an inclusive culture regardless of race, ethnicity, sex, orientation, religion, or disability. These groups include the Indigenous Nations Equality Team and the Lesbian, Gay, Bisexual, Transgender, Queer, or Questioning Initiatives Team, or the ABCXYZ Alphabet Mafia. President Biden signed an executive order in 2021 requiring all organizations in the military, as well as in the rest of the federal government, to create diversity, equity, and inclusion DEI offices to produce strategic DEI plans and to create bureaucratic structures to report on progress towards DEI goals. The overall goal, Biden said, was advancing equity for all, again using the left's euphemism for achieving desired outcomes through discriminatory policies. This is how they're wasting your tax dollars. Let's hear it from IDD 214. Wokeness also comes in the form of conflating the mission of the military with environmental ideology. A year ago, President Biden told a group of overseas Air Force airmen that the Joint Chiefs of Staff had determined that the greatest threat facing America was global warming, a claim the Joint Chiefs had to walk back. In the same vein, Biden signed an executive order imposing a massive regime of environmental goals and requirements for the Department of Defense. These goals included transitioning to all-electric non-tactical vehicles by 2035, carbon-free electricity for military installations by that same year, and net zero emissions from those installations by 2050. As a result, the Pentagon recently announced it will devote over $3 billion of its already stretched thin military budget to climate-related initiatives in 2023 alone. I can't wait to see that battery-powered M1 tank. Trust me, they're thinking about it. Although direct cause and effect studies on the impact of woke policies such as these do not exist, common sense suggests that the consequences for military readiness are dramatic. Spending billions on woke programs while the Chinese are outpacing us on hypersonic weapons, quantum computing, and other important military technologies is one piece of evidence. Recent reports showing the military's dismal failure to gain new recruits in adequate numbers is another. Is anyone surprised that potential recruits, many of whom come from rural or poor areas of the country, don't want to spend their time being lectured about white privilege? These ideological policies move the military in a divergent direction from the American mainstream. In a recent poll of voters, for instance, 69% opposed the teaching of critical race theory in schools. Relatedly, Americans are increasingly losing confidence in the military. I used to be in the military, and I'm one of them. Between 2021 and 2022, the percentage of Americans who report a great deal or quite a lot of confidence in the military decreased 5 percentage points from 69 to 64. In 2012, this confidence level stood at 75%. The bottom line is that precious time and money are being poured into woke programs and projects that would be better applied towards making the military more capable. The billions of dollars that will be spent on Pentagon climate change programs, the time and money spent on creating DEI structures and hiring DEI commissars, and the time spent indoctrinating service members in critical race theory, communism, and addressing an imaginary crisis of extremism in the ranks, all this detracts from the purpose of our military, preserving the security and freedom of the American people and nation. Its job is to break shit. Hopefully, the enemies, until the enemy doesn't want us to break their shit anymore and gives up. We haven't done that in a long time. Soldiers win the battles only to have the politicians lose the war that they started. Who would want to sign up for that? These costs come at a time when the current administration is not even proposing to fund the Department of Defense to keep up with the rate of inflation, and a time when serious threats from China and other adversaries have never been greater. China's Employee of the Month lives in the White House, or were those payments to his family or donations to the college where his foundation is just coincidence? I don't believe in coincidence in politics. Last month, Ramstein Air Base in Germany scheduled a drag queen story hour at the base library where drag queen Stacy Teed was scheduled to read to children. So now the Department of Defense is promoting pedophilia to children. When lawmakers back home got wind of the event and wrote to the Secretary of the Air Force, the event was canceled. This suggests that pushback can be effective against the tide of wokeness plaguing our military, but there needs to be a lot more pushback. Legislation introduced this year in Congress would stop the teaching of critical race theory in the military, the creation of the multitudes of diversity offices and officials, and the rolling back of physical fitness requirements. While the ultimate success of these proposals in the legislative process is uncertain, they are a start at least. The American military remains a faithful and loyal servant of the Republic. Most Americans are still proud and trusting of our military, but this trust and support cannot be taken for granted. If Americans perceive that the military is being exploited for political purposes or being used for experiments in woke social policies, that support will evaporate and the consequences will be dire. Can you say, we're going to need to bring back the draft? Even you gender confused are going to have to play the lottery. I think women too. If they want to serve in combat, throw your name in the hat. Let's hear it for the woke fucking idiots.